their hubris is just sky high and they have a God complex, and that's that.
Yeah. I can tell this is a subject that kind of gets you fired up a little
good.
bit.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Would you say that you have a chip on your shoulder a little bit?
Hey everyone, Dr. Riley here, and welcome to the Wellness Dojo podcast, where we provide real solutions to real health and wellness problems. Today's episode is episode 10, and it's a Q&A, where we answer your most pressing questions on nutrition, exercise, and weight loss, and we also talk about why you might want to see a naturopathic doctor. Stay tuned for our honest replies. Let's go.
Okay, here we are, episode 10.
Huh, huh.
We made it to episode 10.
Double digits. I mean, that's something.
Yeah.
What's our reward?
I don't know. Coffee, I guess. Cheers.
Cheers. Coffee and tough questions from the audience.
Yeah, and tough questions. Yeah, it's I'm excited to be here. Episode 10, when we started this podcast, not to get too sentimental, but when we started this, we really didn't know like how long this is going to go. It's kind of just, okay, let's start this. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully we can provide some value to people. And it's been super fun.
Exactly. We were just like, let's buy some microphones and kind of figure it out from there. I always thought if we made it to episode 10, we're going to make it to episode 100. So
I think so. Yeah, I can already see episode 200.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this is exciting. So for episode 10, in order to celebrate and to thank our listeners that we have so far, we wanted to give an opportunity to answer some questions from our listeners. So we put it out to the socials. And we got some really good questions today. So I'm excited to dive in. Are you?
I'm ready. I'm excited. I love these things because I'm a very honest person, and this just lets me showcase that. And you too, and like it's not about being right. It's not about this and that. It's always about the truth,
Yeah.
And especially when the health of other people are in your hands. Like, you just have to be honest, you have to be truthful. And that's what we're going to bring today.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people ask me, how much prep goes into these episodes, and like how much of that are you guys doing before? Like, how much of it is scripted? And the truth is, really a very minimal amount of this is planned ahead of time and scripted. Like, usually we have a topic in mind and we are, okay, this is what we're going to talk about today. Let's just go. And kind of the same thing today. Like, we really haven't looked over these questions. Neither one of us really researched too much. It's just going to kind of be like what we know, what we believe, and hopefully that is that's a positive experience for you, and hopefully you're able to take more value from this episode as well with these answers. So
exactly. Yeah, we can do like very carefully calculated videos and things like that in on different avenues in our life and on socials, but that's not what we do here. And I think we've both found that the best times that we've had on the podcast and the best answers and things like that is when we are underprepared. So the lesson is never research or prepare.
Yeah, exactly. Never research anything. No, do your homework. But we've been doing our homework for years, and so now we just want to try and give back in the best way and in the most relatable way possible. So with that being said, let's dive into question number 1.
Sweet. Are we telling the, like, who's giving them shout outs?
Yeah, I think we'll give them a shout out.
Okay, let's do it.
Our listeners deserve a shout out.
They do.
So first question is coming from Kiriana. She asked, what's more important for fat loss, adequate sleep or energy intake goals? So basically like energy balance, calories in, calories out, or adequate sleep.
Okay, am I taking a stab at this one first?
Sure, you go first and then I'll go after.
Okay, well, routinely we kind of, we're given this or that kind of scenario and we have to choose. So this, it's a tough one because really both are important. I'm going to maybe surprise you because I know I'm like you always need to rest and get your sleep and lower your cortisol guy. But I'm actually going to say that energy balance and nutritional effort, if you could say that, is more important. The reason I'm saying that specifically for fat loss is because if you go under calorie or if you underdo it, that can increase your fat stores over time. And obviously if you overdo it, then that can also do it. So I think that the balance is a little bit more finicky when it comes to nutrition, and the room for error is a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think most people know at this point that if you starve yourself, the body it actually tries to hang on to fat. Fat stores your like a primary source of energy, right? And so that doesn't work. And then overdoing it, your body just stores excess carbs and things like that as fat. So I'm gonna say that if you're really looking to improve your body composition, especially in terms of fat, really like watching your diet and like the macros and things like that, if you're getting down to that detail, is very important, but also the type of exercise and being in that nice fat burning zone, if that's what your goal is, right? So you're not actually doing high intensity cardio and you're not doing something that's, barely getting your heart going. It's like, I can't remember what it is, 70%, let's say, of max heart rate. That's also really important for fat loss. So I want to add that on to my answer.
Yeah, and it's that is interesting. I'm going to argue the other way.
Nice.
And say that I actually believe that adequate sleep is going to be, I wouldn't say far more beneficial, but in terms of the question being for fat loss, if we were talking about just like losing weight loss, then I would say yes, absolutely. Calories in versus calories out is absolutely your number one thing. But when you're looking at fat loss and targeting fat loss and not just weight loss, then I think sleep is so important because, as we know, sleep has a major impact on human growth hormone, right? Mm-hmm. And that human growth hormone has a major impact on your ability to burn fat in the body.
And
right?
make muscle.
And make muscle fat. Or maintain muscle. And so if you're not getting adequate sleep, so let's say you have the energy balance that you're looking for, right? Just assuming that somebody is like, I know how many calories I need to be at in order to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose fat, but I'm not getting adequate sleep. Well, what's going to happen then is you probably will be losing weight, but you're going to be sacrificing muscle with that because you're not getting the rest, you're not getting the recovery that your body needs in order to kind of maintain that muscle mass or continue to build that lean muscle mass, especially if you're weight training and, eating a good protein intake and carbohydrate intake, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say, I agree with you in the sense that sleep is, they're both I think almost equally important in terms of that, but that sleep is going to really be a good supplement to the fat loss if you're specifically looking for fat loss and muscle gain too. Like on the other side of it, some people are looking to gain muscle. Mm-hmm. You look at bodybuilders and stuff, like those people need a lot of sleep. They need that rest. Like they will preach now like the importance of recovery in their routine because you need it to build muscle. And if you want to burn more fat, a good way to do that is to have more lean muscle mass on your body.
Absolutely. I hear that weightlifters routinely, unapologetically sleep for like 10 plus hours a day. And that's like upper echelon people too. Maybe even more. Yeah. It's part of the lifestyle. And of course, if you're sacrificing sleep at all, the consequences insofar as your quality of life are far greater than missing a macro, like not quite meeting your protein intake for the day here and there. That's not going to have the same consequences as 3.5 hours of sleep or fragmented sleep or what is going to have on your mood and quality of life and decision making and executive functioning and all those things, right? So the consequences are far greater. So that's why, just beyond fat loss, which is what this question was about, and fair enough, but yeah, it's just, for well-rounded holistic health. Yeah. The consequences are far greater for not looking after your sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, the truth is, and, I don't think this was the intent of the question, but if somebody's like looking at that and going, okay, do I need to focus on sleep or do I need to focus on calories? Like at the end of the day, no matter what your goal is, my argument would be focus on sleep first, get that sorted out. Because, and the other thing too is, and I've been in this situation before, like sleep has kind of been one of my things over the years where it's like when I'm anxious or when I'm stressed and stuff, like sleep seems to be the thing that gets affected the most. And so, there are times where sleep is a struggle. So if you're like struggling to sleep and you're working towards that, then you can look at your energy intake as well and energy output as well. And try to make adjustments on both sides so that you can try to find a good balance for that. So for example, if I'm struggling to sleep, me going and like working extra hard at the gym to try and like make up for it is not going to help.
No.
Right? So we need to look at it in a situational way and try to decide like what's going to be best for that specific situation. But hopefully that answers that question.
And just because there's an opportunity to throw this in here, so I'll just say it. Oftentimes, fat loss and weight loss are used interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is that people go, okay, I want to lose 5 pounds of fat. They start working out. They start doing a little bit of weight training. They lose 3 pounds of fat and put on 2.5 pounds of muscle. And and they're like, oh, I only lost half a pound, and they're discouraged. And so really, like the scale, I realize its place. It's a number that people can work towards. You can't always improve things that you can't track. So it's, it helps people track, but like there's so much more to it. And other than just the scale, you know when your body's changing for the better. You can see it in the mirror. And if people are unexpectedly and suddenly stopping you and saying, have you lost weight? You look great. And you're like, oh, thanks. But no, I haven't lost any weight. No, your body's changing. You've put on muscle. You have lost fat. And so don't let that discourage you. Don't let it all be about the number. Just had to say that just because we're kind of on the topic, and that stuff drives me crazy because I see it hurt people.
Oh, it does. Yeah. It does. And it really can impact somebody's willingness to keep pushing forward. I just had a conversation with somebody just like this, like 2 days ago, I think. And it was the same thing. Before they weighed themselves, I had asked them, how are you feeling? Because they asked me, do you think I've lost weight? And I said, well, yeah, like, I think so, but like, how do you feel? And they said, yeah, I feel like I have, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And then they hopped on the scale, and the scale did not reflect that they had lost weight. And it was like, focus on the feeling though. If you feel like you've lost weight, like that's so much more important, because that number isn't telling you the whole story. But it's really hard for people to, and myself included, like I think this is a normal thing, but we want to see tangible results, something that we can almost see, touch, feel, those types of results, because that kind of gives a little bit more like immediate gratification almost.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but just you got to catch yourself, I think, in those moments and remind yourself. And ironically, getting better sleep is going to help you be more logical in that sense too. So, yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
Okay.
You want to read the next one?
Okay. This is from Roy. It says, hey dudes. No. It says, working out when you're over 50 plus. So when you're over the age of 50, would you recommend heavy weights, or would you recommend lighter weights and higher reps? And go. And that's the question.
Okay. So heavy weights or lighter weights, higher reps, working out over 50. Yeah, I'll take this one first. So again, situational here. You got to look at the individual. You got to look at, okay, well, how has this person been working out? Like, okay, so they're 50 or over 50. What's their history? Have they been working out for 50 years? Have they not been working out for, 20 plus years? Like, what is the history here? What, I would assess their movement abilities. I would assess mobility, their strength, and where they're starting at. So you need to know, like, where am I starting at first? Because it's easy to go online and read this article that says, okay, if you're 50 pounds, or if you're over 50, you need to be lifting weights. So then they go, okay, I need to lift weights.
Get the 4-liter jug of water. Yeah. Get that singlet. Yeah.
Get the sleeveless hoodie. And, start working, right?
Short shorts.
And short shorts, of course. But no, in all seriousness, you have to assess where you're starting from. And from there, you have to start slowly. It would be, from whatever that starting point is, again, that might be you're starting from ground zero, never worked out, or it's been years since I've worked out. Or maybe you've been working out and you're just not sure, like, should I lift heavier? Should I go from here? I would assess that. I would look at that and say, where are you starting from? And then I would make incremental advancements. I would increase intensity in small doses and carefully. And I would assess how am I feeling as I'm making these incremental changes, and go from there. If you, let's say, add 20 pounds to something, right? If you're squatting and you add a 20-pound dumbbell into your squat from a bodyweight squat, and you're like, oh, that didn't feel good, or oh, that hurt my back or something. Okay, take a step back then. Like maybe add 5 pounds first and like make small incremental changes. That's my recommendation. I mean, you have to kind of be a little bit logical here too, right? Like you're not going to go like, okay, I haven't been working out for 10 years. And I read that I should be going heavy on the weights.
Time to get buff.
Yeah, I read I should go heavy on the weights, so I'm going to jump in and go, no, you're not going to jump in and like start deadlifting 200 pounds. Like you're going to start where you need to start. And that's really my biggest recommendation with this question is, if you're over 50 and you're debating on what should I do, just do something. Like I think what you're capable of doing right now. Trust that and start, and then from there just incremental changes.
Okay, so I'm going to say that given that there's the age variable in there, I'm going to say that and this is another kind of this or that, is it heavy or is it light? So if you were looking at this like the lightest of the light is a 0, like you're just kind of doing bicep curls with your hand, empty-handed, versus like 10 out of 10, I would actually want to see that over a 5 for most people if you're over the age of 50. And the reason for that is twofold. One is that the way that you really, like for me, I think that if you're over 50, what are some of the concerns? Well, you don't want to injure yourself. That's one. And so there's a paradox with injuries. And so an example I'll give is that if somebody tears their Achilles heel or something like that, the way that you recover from it after surgery isn't just by sitting around and just doing light walking for 6 months. You have to put it under duress and you have to put it under mechanical force. And what happens when you do that is your soft tissue cells, they turn over and they create new and they create stronger cells. And you have to put them under force. So that's kind of the paradox about injury prevention as you're getting older, is you do have to put it under some sort of force. So I totally agree with you. Don't put it under too much force right away. But I would like to see that, like if you're doing on what they call a visual analog scale, where all you have is a 0 and all you have is a 10 and then a straight line. Mm-hmm. I would like to see it favoring just slightly more so towards the 10, and then of course you work your way up. And then the other reason is, other than just creating like strong soft tissue, tendons, ligaments, things like that, is as you age, one of the major concerns is fall and fracture risk. And that it just gets worse as you get older. And some of the stats they're harrowing, right? It's like, I almost hesitate to give them because I don't want to scare people, but it's like over a certain age, if you have a certain bone mineral density, let's say you get scanned, and let's assume that it's an accurate scan, which those things aren't always accurate, but let's assume it's pretty accurate. So it's like you're a little bit lower than you should be, and you're over the age of 65. Like the stats of people passing away within 12 months are crazy. Yeah. They're crazy. And so, and then it just gets worse as you get older. So fracture risk isn't just fracture. There is a mortality association with fractures as you get older. So where am I going with this? Heavier weights will help you increase your bone mineral density. It doesn't move the needle tremendously. Nothing does. Not even bisphosphonates and not even hardcore pharmaceuticals. Nothing does. It's hard to do. It's just one of those things. You can take supplements. You can try to lift. It's not going to move it. It's not going to move the needle immensely, but you are still making a difference, and you are still supporting your bone mineral density. So I'm going to go a little bit more on the heavier side as well. And you also, interestingly enough, you increase your bone mineral density if you have a slightly higher body mass index. If you weigh a little bit more as you age, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. Because you're carrying around a little bit more weight, within reason, a little bit more weight. And so every step you take, you're actually like putting force on your bones and on your joints, and your body's going to respond by helping to increase that bone mineral density.
Yeah. And I think people struggle with that balance of like the physical and the mental side, right? Where they're like, I want to push it, but I'm scared to push it, and that type of thing. And so again, I'll just reiterate, like, make sure you're paying attention to how you feel, right? You want to push yourself so that you are getting the benefits from your workouts, but you also want it to be sustainable. If you're pushing yourself and it's painful, it's not going to last that long. We've talked about this, right? So you need to find a level of enjoyment. You need to make sure that you're finding that right balance between like that physical push and kind of where you're at mentally. And then the other thing that we didn't touch on yet, and I'll make this very brief because I want to get to the next question, but focus on movements that you do on a daily basis and try to incorporate those movements into your workouts. Like make that your main focus. When you're 50 plus, for most people, you're not looking to, be a bodybuilder, right? Most people that I talk to that are over 50 are looking to feel better on a daily basis, and that's their main driving force. So look at, what do I do on a daily basis? Do I get up from the couch a lot? Like, am I sitting up, sitting down, sitting up, sitting down? Am I walking? Am I picking up groceries? Like these types of things, and try and mimic those movements in your workouts.
Yeah, that's when you hear the word functional and functional strength, that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's what that is, right? It's like to support your daily functions.
Absolutely.
As a human being.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. This one comes from actually two people. So Chelsea and Candace both kind of asked this question, and I'm excited to see what you have to say about this. Now, actually, let's blend two questions together here. So the first question is, why would somebody want to see an ND versus an MD? And then the other question that's kind of attached to that is, do you feel that doctors, so medical doctors, steer people away from naturopathic doctors? And if so, why?
Okay. So why would you see one opposed to the other? To answer that question, you have to look at what each does well. So let's start with MDs. So MDs are masters at, they're like leveraging advanced diagnostic machinery and tools, obviously emergency medicine, surgery, and administering pharmaceuticals. Beyond that, and that's a lot, trust me, saving lives is a big deal. But beyond that, I mean, really that is what they do. So what do NDs do? What are we the masters at? Well, there's a lot of advantages to seeing us. I would say that the fact that you get to see us for 60 minutes initially is huge. We're more trained to listen to our patients, ask what they think is going on, and not assume that we always know best. We try to tap into the intuition of the patient a little bit just to inform us what's going on, because a big part of what I do and people I see, I'm people's last resort so often. They're like, I don't know what's going on. I've just been dismissed by the medical community. No one's listening to me. And so that's an advantage of seeing an ND. We will listen to you. We're trained that way. Like, we're trained in so-called bedside manner from month 1, semester 1, right? And it's a big part of who we are. So that would be a big advantage. I would say that we really shine in what I would call like proactive health and proactive medicine. We're not great at helping you once you've fallen off the cliff, and like that's where you need emergency medical services. That's not where we shine. We shine in helping people stay off the ledge, so to speak. And we're really good at it. We're well-rounded. We can not only offer you counseling, but it's like the same person, such as myself and the good NDs out there. We can offer you counseling, nutrition advice. We can tell you how to exercise. We can tell you how to meditate. And then we can give you herbal options, and we can interpret lab tests, like all in one person. So that's a huge advantage. I guess it's kind of it's kind of a double-edged sword, being that jack of all trades sometimes. But, with enough experience, you can really hone your expertise in all of those different categories and dimensions.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
Okay, so I think that, from my experience being on the outside looking in, I think that it's also really important that you just assess your current situation. Assess, like, what are you getting from your medical doctor right now? Is there something missing, right? Because the thing is, some people have a medical doctor that they will praise, like, to everybody and say, oh, my doctor is so amazing. They listen to me. They take the time, right? And then you hear other people that are like, man, I go in there, I say, like, this is what I'm feeling. And they're like, try this, come back, tell me if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to look at, like, what do I have and is something missing? and the advantage to, and the same thing with an ND, right? Like you said, like there could be naturopathic doctors out there that are very similar. Like they don't, maybe, they just want to see you come in, go, like try this, go out. And, you have to look at that. And like, I know Dr. Riley, he wants to work with people, right? Like
I'm a quality over quantity. I don't even want to work with that, that many patients so that it's at the point where my quality of care is being compromised.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, you want to work with people on an ongoing basis. That's the way that we've set up our services, right? Is that so that, you're not just seeing somebody once saying, okay, take this information and go. Like, you want to really help people, right? And I think people can get a sense of that. And that's where people get turned off sometimes by the medical community, is that they don't feel a sense of like they really want to help me. It's like I'm just another patient that walks through the door. And that's something that's very different with you. And that's something that really resonated with me when we were talking was, he really wants to help people. He really wants to like work with people, help people find a solution, just like what I want for long term, like longevity with your health.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Oh, just the way we interpret lab tests as well. So if you're someone that you've been like evaluate, let's say your iron levels, if they've been falling gradually for the past year, but they're still within that range, which is really just kind of the subjective range. They're different all over the world, but whatever range is in Canada at this point. And it's like the lower end, but it's still within range. Most MDs, to my knowledge, will just say, no, you're fine. You're within the range. And someone like me will look at the history and go, well, this has actually been dropping. Sure, you're within range, but like it's getting to low range. Let's deal with that now. Yeah. That's a very different way of, approaching people's health.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so just kind of building on that question, do you have the opinion that a lot of MDs are steering people away from seeing a naturopathic doctor?
Well, it's part of their training before they even get into med school. And so when I was applying to be a naturopathic doctor, I knew that part of my interview, we'd be going through these scenarios, or what they call vignettes. And so they say a patient comes in and they tell you this, how do you react? And so I wanted to practice these because I'm not in naturopathic med school yet. And so I want to practice these. And a lot of these vignettes, they're posted within the mainstream medical community. And I'd be going through, and like the second or third one I got to was one of your patients comes in and says they want to try natural, they always have to put the quotations, natural therapies. And how do you advise them away from this? That's before they're even in, like that's during the interview to get into med school. So that's how deep this goes. So yes, it's part of their training. It's like, and we respond to how we're trained. So I don't always, it's hard to blame like individuals for this. So I would say that, one, it's part of their training. Two, certain doctors might have a good reason for steering people away because they had a bad experience with one of their patients under their care that went to a naturopathic doctor. The naturopathic doctor made outrageous claims about curing their cancer with some outrageous therapy that's not evidence-based. And so then that doctor, for the rest of their life, just thinks, well, naturopathic doctors are bad and they're this and that, and they'll steer them away. So like, we talked about being honest at the beginning of this episode. Well, there's a dose of honesty. There's probably reasons that people are apprehensive or even against naturopathic medicine. And I never stand up for the entire profession as a whole, because I hear things about, people in the profession that I disagree with a lot. And, just generalizing, and I hope I'm not being too unfair here, but just generalizing, it seems to be more so the old guard that graduated at a time when we weren't a regulated profession. You didn't have to go to school for 4 years and take science-based board examinations and things like that, which is what we have to do now. And in Alberta, this is as recent as the 2010s. We're only in, is it still 2021?
Yep.
Thank God. Okay, we're only in 2021. And this has only been since the 2010s that we've been regulated and we've upped our game.
Yeah.
And so like myself and the people that I graduated with are critical thinking, science-minded naturopathic doctors. And that might seem, like a little oxymoronic, but it's not, because there is so much that we can do operating that way. I operate that way. and I'm very proud of it. So yes, certain MDs steer people away, but they might have a good reason for it. And then of course they might not. They might just have, their hubris is just sky high and they have a God complex, and that's that.
Yeah. I can tell this is a subject that kind of gets you fired up a
Oh,
little
good.
bit.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Would you say that you have a chip on your shoulder a little bit to like say like, you know what, there is this stigma out there and I'm going to prove it wrong. I am going to help people. I am going to show that what I, sacrifice my time and money and stuff into becoming, I'm going to show people that, like, do you have that kind of chip on your shoulder?
I would say it's more so like my mission is to give NDs a good name. That's part of my mission. And the ironic thing is I'm going to be making a lot of enemies within my profession while trying to do it.
Possibly. Or inspiring people, right?
Let's hope.
Yeah, I can draw parallels to the massage industry. The massage industry is not regulated in Alberta still. We're the only province in Canada that's not regulated. And when I started doing massage therapy, people were like, you're a guy. I don't understand why you're doing massage therapy. Like there was still this really strong stigma around the industry. And I too had a chip on my shoulder. And I was like, okay, good. Like I am going to be the most professional massage therapist you've ever seen. I am going to treat my clients with like the utmost respect. I'm going to be extremely careful with everything that I do, right? Because I had first of all, I had this stigma around me, the same way that, naturopathic medicine, a lot of people are like, oh, it's just like, herbs and potions and all this stuff. Like there are people that still have that stigma, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, good. Let's prove it wrong. Let's show what this really is. And, I know that, just seeing what you bring to the table with what you've been doing with your patients and stuff like that, like you're definitely showing that. And I know I am too with massage therapy. I'm a damn good massage therapist. I have a lot of clients that, they won't see anybody else but me because of the treatment that I provide. And that's really what matters to us the most, is that we're providing that treatment and showing what we're capable of. And at the end of the day, listening and helping people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just one more point here, and that's, this is another this or that type of question. Yeah. And I would just say there's sometimes when you would want to switch away from an ND to an MD, or vice versa, but you can always do both. I'm about collaboration, and I'm about co-managing cases, especially if it's a little bit beyond my scope of practice.
Yep.
But I still want to co-manage, because what healthcare is about it's about people they have a change they need to make, and they need some help making it. And 15 minutes in an office and being given something and just saying, see me again in a month, that's barely healthcare. That's
the keyword is care.
Right. But sometimes that thing that they're giving the person, if the person has some sort of a critical illness, they have heart failure, or they've had a stroke and they need to prevent a stroke, that thing that they're giving the person in the 15 minutes can be incredibly impactful. But they need more than that. They need more support, and that's where someone like me would come in.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Really good, strong question and good, strong answers. So good job. Okay. Next question is from Pam. She says, how do you force yourself out of a box that's mostly of your own making?
Okay, I want you to start on that. These are one of those tough. It's just like it's almost rhetorical. I want you to take.
Yeah. Okay. So so how do you force yourself out of a box that is mostly of your own making? Well, I think the first thing and the most important thing here, Pam, is that you are recognizing that first of all that you are in this quote unquote box. But then also taking ownership and taking full ownership of this. I read mostly of your own making. I would challenge you to accept that this is all your own making. You started the question with, how do you force yourself out of a box that is mostly of your own making? I would challenge you to take full ownership of where you are, whatever box you feel that you've put yourself into. Take full ownership first, right? Okay, I put myself here because with that ownership comes power that I can take myself out, right? We create everything in our lives. We created this podcast, right? It came from, an initial conversation of, hey, would you be interested in Actually, I think we kind of said it jokingly. It was like, oh, hey, we just had a really good conversation. And I was like, hey, this would be a good podcast one day.
I think that's how most podcasts start.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then it was up to us. Like, it could have turned into nothing, like just another, funny joke or whatever. But we created it the same way that whatever box that you feel that you're in, you created that, and which means that you can create anything else. So you can open that box, you can step out, and you can really create anything that you want to create. And it doesn't matter how old you are, what your gender is. There's always going to be some external factors that come into play, but again, you get to take those external factors and say, okay, what do I do with this? Right?
Yeah. And that word forcing yourself out of something likely isn't going to work either. It's more like, how can I strategically wiggle myself out of this, right? Because forcing, to me, I'm imagining someone in a box and they're going,
yeah, it's like trying to break free. You can do that for
5 minutes and then you're just fatigued again and you're defeated. And it's like, no, it's more about, like, how can I be clever about this?
I picture a present. Try and unwrap the present without wrecking the paper. That would be my approach to this, right? It's like, there's going to be layers, right? There's going to be, like, where do I start? Okay, well, maybe where you start is by recognizing, like I said, that, okay, I've put myself in this box. I recognize where I'm at. Okay. Next step maybe is, like, take full ownership. Okay, I'm taking full ownership. I put myself here. Whatever external factors were involved, I still ended up here. This was based off of my multiple decisions that I've made throughout my life have gotten me here. What's my first step to get out of this box?
Right. And sometimes inaction over time in certain areas of your life puts you in boxes as well. That's what I found for myself personally. I'm like, how did I get into this? It's like, oh yeah, it's because I actually should have taken care of this a long time ago.
Yeah, because I did nothing.
And we're not saying that's your case. No, that's just more, we're just talking generally here. But, if you're in one of those, what are those, like those finger traps, right? And it's like the tighter, the more force you give, I see this word force, the tighter it gets.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, sometimes it's not about that. It's about pulling back, almost kind of taking that helicopter view and looking at it a little bit differently and taking a breath and going, okay, how do I get out of this?
Yeah, and that's a good question. How do I get out of this, right? Because that's really what I think what the question is asking, right? It's like, okay, I know I'm here. How do I get out of it? Well, I would ask yourself the question, what does being in this box, what has it been giving me? And what is this providing me? What is the box protecting me from, right? Anytime I picture, like, being in a box, I picture, like, it's protecting me from something on the outside. So what have I been scared of? What is this? What's this keeping me safe from? And then I think that's the first step, because I think when you start to ask yourself those questions, you start to realize that maybe these things aren't as scary as you thought. If you've made the growth to get to the point of, like, recognizing where you're at, then you're probably ready to start exploring the possibilities that maybe those things aren't as scary as maybe even being in the box, because being in the box is probably a little bit scary too, right? Whatever you're protecting yourself from, that might be a scary light when you're, like, looking down the line of, like, staying in this box or trying to, kind of break free of it a little bit. Which one's more scary? That's a good question to ask as well.
And it's good to knock on the box and see if there's anyone outside of it. If they can see things outside of the box, they can see the latch, the metaphorical latch that you can't, and maybe they can help you open it. Maybe all they can do is open the latch and then you have to push. Obviously I'm speaking in metaphors here, but if you're in a box, well, got to think outside of it as well. And I know we talk about cliches here, but it's like, they're all cliches are also axiomatic. They're around for a reason. We get beaten over the head with them constantly, especially in the corporate world and corporate messaging. It's just, you gloss over it. I've been told to think outside the box so many times, I resist it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But the way that you do that, sometimes, the journaling works. Sometimes sitting and in silence and with your eyes closed and almost like using images and visualizing to help you problem solve can do things that, you know, the journaling maybe can't,
Yeah.
unless you're an artistic person. I'm not. So I have to kind of like close my eyes, calm my nervous system down, and then start almost bringing like shapes and images and things and people and solutions, and using like that third eye in my brain to come up with solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important that also you can reach out for support, right? And this goes to the, you know, working out over 50 too. Like if you're worried about it, like get support, like help yourself with those things, and get a second opinion, get somebody on the outside to take a look in at your situation and help you with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one final question that we're gonna finish off with. What are your thoughts on fasting?
Okay. I think that fasting it does have its place. I don't think it's for everyone. So like for intermittent fasting, it does seem to help people in a few different ways. One is that if you really have this time goal, that this is my window of eating, it teaches some people some self-control about not always reacting to those hunger signals. So let's say your eating window, if you're fasting or whatever, is like 1 to 8 p.m. and you're really hungry at 10. For your entire life, I bet you've just been reacting to that and eating and eating and eating. So for sake of a little bit of self-discipline and awareness that, you know, your body's going to give you signals. Your body habitually actually gives you panic signals that you don't have to react to. It's kind of doing its job. It's trying to do what it thinks it's right. And this is physical and mental. You're going to be getting these signals. And so I find that just for a little bit of self-awareness and self-control, it's good. So there's some value in it for that. I think people do it for weight loss, and I believe it works temporarily. It's nice to give your digestive system a little bit of a break. So if you have that feeding window, let's say, I know there's different types, but I'll just kind of stick to this, like 16 off, 8 on kind of thing. So you're eating, you know, what you need to and getting your calories for 8 hours and then resting 16. That resting for 16 is kind of a nice break for your digestive system if you've been someone who basically has just been eating during your entire waking life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we can't ignore the fact that fasting, you know, really originates from religious beliefs, right? It comes from religious and cultural backgrounds and stuff like that. When I hear people talk about fasting for weight loss, automatic red flags pop up for me. And I think the reason for that is because most people that I am working with are struggling with their eating. They're struggling with overeating. Mm-hmm. And, you know, oftentimes even like almost disordered type of eating, where it's like binge eating at night and those types of things. When people bring up like fasting in those senses, like people who are overindulging already, like on the weekends or those types of things, fasting has scary parallels to binge eating, right? Just in the setup of it, of like restrict all day and then eat in this small window. We talk about habits a lot, and we talk about that stuff, and you know, you're kind of practicing binge eating in a sense, and that's where that red flag comes up for me. Mm-hmm. I think it can be used as a strategy. You mentioned like practicing self-control and stuff. I can see that with, you know, if you are, let's say, tracking your calories and you are aiming for a calorie target in order to maintain weight, in order to achieve weight loss or weight gain, using fasting I can see it being a strategy that helps you kind of like keep those things in check, where you're like, okay, I've got 8 hours to achieve this calories. I have, you know, it's more planned out in that sense, which can offer some structure for people who maybe struggle throughout the day with snacking and those types of things. But I do caution people to be careful. First of all, make sure that it's going to fit your lifestyle, right? Because there's certain people fasting will work better than others, right? And different types of fasting too. Like you look at a 16-8, where you're, you know, fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8. That might work for one person who, you know, is not busy in the evenings, right? And so then they can fast all day. In the evenings, they can eat their calories. If you're somebody who works a night shift, that's going to be a lot harder because you're going to be busy during those, you know, maybe those 8 hours. Obviously, you can adjust your hours wherever, but, you know, somebody who's working a night shift, for example, trying to do intermittent fasting, that might be really tough because they're working that whole 8 hours that they're, you know, awake and then they're going home and sleeping. So then you have an even shorter window to eat now. And now it's going to be really hard. You might be under nutrient. You might be getting like less nutrients than you need to get. And so it's a very dynamic thing. I'd say it works for a specific group of people. And I caution people, if you're struggling with overeating as it is, then I caution you from jumping into intermittent fasting or fasting.
And there's some interesting things that happens with the body, like at that 15, 16 hour mark, your body it starts to like increase adrenaline. So you can actually be a mood elevator. There's something called autophagy, which your body starts, it starts pretty much like, it's like programmed cellular death of like old cells and things like that. But it's kind of, to me, your body's kind of panicking. It's going, we need adrenaline so you can go chase that rabbit or go forage some mushrooms because we're hungry. Yeah. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's maybe lysing, or it's taking those cells through apoptosis. Maybe it's fat cells. Well, that's great for my body composition. Yeah, kind of. Your body's going, here's some energy. Please go hunt us some food. It's like, yeah these things are happening, and like I can see some modern day advantages. That makes me feel better, and I know that some fat cells are starting to lyse and die and become energy. Yeah, but like it's kind of in a panic, in my view. Yeah,
no, I agree completely. I think there's danger there, right? And I had another thought as you were talking, and now I've completely lost it. It was going to be a good point too.
About fasting?
Yeah.
In particular?
Yeah, but that's okay. Another time.
Yeah, and just our bodies, they're so well equipped to, if you're like eating like within reason, the appropriate caloric amount, you're eating, small to medium portions, you're giving your body like hydration and fiber to move things along, and nice sources of protein so that you can form muscles and soft tissues and even like neurotransmitters and things like that. You don't need to do any of this stuff. You don't need to fast. You don't need, you just don't. Our bodies are well equipped for that.
Yeah. Yeah. My thought came back to me. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I was filling up space until you remembered it.
I knew what you were doing, and it worked. So, the thing is I know I've seen multiple situations where people tell me they're fasting and that it's working. But when you really look closer at the situation, it's not working. And what I mean by that is they're saying, I am losing weight. Great, right? However, on the weekends, you're still binging your face off because your body is doing exactly what you were just talking about. It's like, okay, we lost some weight. Let's and then they, people feel like crap after like at the end of the weekend. I've even had people come to me and say like, man, I don't know why I do this to myself. Like I feel like in physical pain after a Saturday because, it's my cheat day or whatever, and I go for it. If you're feeling like that, is it really working? Like, and when you really think about like being healthy in that generic sense, the cheat meals, the cheat days, those types of things, is that really healthy for you? Like, is that weight loss really healthy? I challenge that. And that's not just with fasting, that's with a lot of kind of fad diets that come around, like, paleo, keto, all these different things. People who are like, yeah, it's working. Like I do it during the week, and then I have this like cheat day or this cheat weekend or this cheat meal or whatever. But then you feel like shit afterwards, and you're in physical pain, and mentally it's a battle every time because you had a bad weekend or something like that. Like, to me, that doesn't sound like it's working. You might be losing weight because the balance is slightly there, but that's not working. That's not feeling healthy. That's not being healthy. Look more for consistency in like the nutrients that you're getting, and like, okay, if you're gonna have pizza on Saturday, like, can you not surround that pizza with like other nutrient dense meals? That's my opinion. I don't think weight loss is the most people's end goal. I think that's the tangible thing we were talking about earlier. So that's what I'll say about that.
All right. Well, there we have it.
Yeah.
That's the Q&A.
That's the Q&A, episode 10. I want to take an opportunity to just thank everybody. It's only episode 10, but it's episode 10. And we've had some really strong support from our listeners. And so thank you guys so much. And I'm looking forward to continuing to grow this podcast with my man, the naturopathic ninja, Dr. Riley.
Hey, yo. Thanks, Kyle.
Of course.
All right, everyone. So if you ever have questions for us and you want to learn a little bit more about us, how we practice, or even personally, we don't need a special episode to do it. You can always reach out and let us know. There's so many avenues, and we really mean it. Like, if you message me on Facebook, on my personal or professional account, I'll get back to you.
Absolutely.
I'm not unreachable.
And if you're not comfortable with that, hit us up at thewellnessdojo.ca. That is wellnessdojo.ca. And we both offer free consultations. We'll sit down and talk, see kind of what you got, and if we can help, we'll let you know honestly if we can or not.
Awesome. All right. Well, wherever you are, whoever you are, we love you. Thanks so much, and take care of yourselves.
See you in episode 11.
See ya.
Bye.